The Obama administration is treating the suspect in the botched airliner bombing as a criminal defendant, not as an alleged enemy combatant. That means a trial in federal court with all its various legal protections instead of interrogation by the U.S. military. And that decision is already sparking lots of controversy. And one who's not very happy about all of this is Republican Senator Jim DeMint. Listen to this.
If we had treated the Christmas Day bomber as a terrorist, he would have immediately been interrogated military style rather than given the rights of an American in lawyers. We've probably lost valuable information.
But the president's senior counterterrorism advisor is voicing confidence in the court system, says suspects in the previous cases have provided valuable information in the process. Al-Qaeda militants in Yemen are claiming responsibility for the botched airliner bombing, and former Guantanamo detainees are said to have returned to terrorism after returning to Yemen. So what should be done with the remaining Yemeni detainees at Guantanamo Bay? The human rights attorney David Reams is joining us. He represents many of those Yemeni detainees, about 20 of them. Is that right, David?
Yes.
There are about 90 Yemenis still being held at Guantanamo Bay right now.
That's correct, 44% of the population.
All of a sudden, your job got much more difficult because pressure is mounting not to let any more of them go back to Yemen.
Our job has been pretty difficult since the very beginning. At this point, at least, the administration has in place a process that guarantees rigorous review, file by file, man by man. The administration is not simply opening the gates and letting all the men run free. It's got a panel of the Defense Department, the State Department, the Justice Department, Homeland Security, Director of National Intelligence, all making sure that any man who's released does not present a danger to the U.S.
But some who have been released have returned to the battlefield, if you will.
Well, that assumes they were at the battlefield in the first place. I think that the men that you're talking about, Wolf, were freed by the previous administration, which dealt with this more as a diplomatic issue. 94% of the Saudis who were detainees are home. They're not all home because they were all judged to be not dangerous. They're all home because of diplomatic deals. The Obama administration has taken a different stance. Plus, there have been trials in federal court now in 42 cases, and the detainees have won in 31 of them. So I think that 4 out of 5 is a pretty strong track record.
But the government in Yemen is very weak. A lot of people are fearing that there could be a failed state right now. So if the Yemeni government says, you know what, we'll take responsibility for these Yemeni detainees, some of whom you represent, can you trust them?
There's no reason not to trust
the Yemeni government.
The Yemeni government. I'm not sure why the Yemeni government has to be responsible for men who've been determined not to be dangerous to the United States.
There was a prison breakout. Some of those Yemeni detainees got out, and a few of them are now the leaders, in effect, of al-Qaeda in Yemen.
But you can't just lump all individual Yemenis together. Just because some are al-Qaeda and some are terrorists doesn't make them all terrorists. And again, I'm saying that there's a very careful vetting process in place for determining who should be released from Guantanamo.
Would you rather see your clients, these 20 or so Yemeni detainees at Guantanamo Bay, serve in Guantanamo Bay, and you've been there, about 20 times yourself over the past several years, or move to that prison in Illinois?
Well, I don't think the question is what the zip code of the prison is. The question is, can the men be repatriated? Can they be sent home? I don't think it makes any difference whether they're in Guantanamo or Illinois if they're still being treated unjustly.
Because Jane Harman, the Democratic Congresswoman from California, she was here in the Situation Room today, and she said she wouldn't return any more of those detainees to Yemen right now, given the current situation.
Well, I think that's to misjudge the process that's in place, and it's also to treat all of these Yemenis not as individual men, who no one's met except for lawyers like me, but to treat them as an undifferentiated mass. I don't think that's fair, I don't think that's just, and I don't think that's the American way.
Based on your conversations with officials in the Obama administration and the U.S. military, do you suspect that anytime soon any of your clients will be allowed to go back home to Yemen?
Well, I hope the administration stays on track. Administration officials have said publicly that they intend to close Guantanamo and that they do intend to stay on track for releasing detainees.
We'll see what happens. David Reams represents many of those Yemeni detainees at Gitmo. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks, Wolf.